Hi and hello watch fans, and welcome back to the Real Time Show with me, your friendly neighborhood watchmaker Rob Nuds, and the friendly neighborhood jeweler from Amsterdam, Alon Ben Joseph. Happy July 4th, Independence Day and 250th birthday to our American listeners, celebrating that quarter millennium foundation of their nation. Yesterday, in honor of that, and in honor of each and every one of our listeners across the pond, who make up a huge percentage of our audience, we wanted to run down our favorite American watch brands. So what Alon and I have both done is prepared a list of 10 brands in order. We're going to go in reverse order, so from 10 to 1, and we're going to chop up our opinions, our loves, and our wishes for these many special brands from the USA. We have a few honorable mentions that we'll check out first, but before that, welcome to the studio, ABJ.
Thank you, Rob. Happy birthday, America. Congrats to all the Americans. It's no secret, both Rob and I love, a lot about the United States of America. I've lived there. You've traveled so much there. You practically lived there. Sports and watchmaking on the American fronts since, a lot died off, is being revived. So it's actually very exciting because when you came up with this topic, Rob, my brain started racing. I'm like, what 10 watches should I select? So I hope actually that our number one is the same. So I'm very curious, Rob, what did you put on number one?
Well, I'm not going to tell you until the end of the show, obviously, so our listeners will have to wait and have to guess and have to figure it out. But I think as we go down our list from 10 to 1, they will probably start to realize we may well have the same answer, although we don't know. We've not compared lists. We don't know if there's going to be duplicates or otherwise on these rundowns, so that's very interesting for us. But you raise a good point, Alon. When a topic like American watchmaking and the best American watchmakers is raised, for analysts like us, it's often a bit of a white face moment when we're like, oh my goodness, what American brands are there? Is Bulova still American? Is Hamilton still American? Does Elgin still exist? What's happening with Waltham? What's happened with all of these great railroad brands that obviously were very important in the industrialization of the United States? The answer is, of course, watchmaking is in a much healthier state in the US now than it has been for decades, and that is really because of the micro brand heyday and the rise of small independents that we're seeing now. So there is a lot more to talk about than was initially apparent to us. And as soon as you do a Google search for best American watch brands or the watches of America, you will find plenty of options. Some you will have heard of and maybe not realize were American, and others you will be learning for the first time. So to kick off this list, my honorable mentions, and I have a small handful of these because I didn't want to not mention these 4 brands that I've identified, but I just want to give a shout out to them. So a lot of these brands are beloved by our community. We have a lot of time and respect for them as well. But today they didn't make it into the top 10. And I think when you hear of the passion that we have for the watches that did make it into that top 10, you'll understand why and think it's totally agreeable that we left some of these out. So my 4 honorable mentions are Jack Mason, Baltimore Watch Company, Shinola, and Laurier. In reverse order, I feel Laurier gets a lot of pop and has kind of maxed out its public perception at the moment. It's a great watch. There's a lot of British brands, I think, are emulating what Laurier has done in terms of design, case shape, bracelets, overall offering, and I think they've made their mark. So I don't think they need additional discussion. Shinola is one of the biggest success stories in the US. The watches have never really been for me stylistically, but I love the whole Detroit angle and their dedication to creating good products that have a made in the US angle. Baltimore Watch Company, owned by one of my favorite people in the US watch industry, Eugene Stallman, and he will feature on this list elsewhere. So keep your ears open for his own brand. And Jack Mason, one of the biggest brands, to be honest, in terms of volume, one of the most popular in terms of awards and in partnerships, and something that I've not had much hands-on experience with, but I've met the founders and I think they're great guys and they're very beloved within the industry. So shout out to them. Alon, who are your honorable mentions landing just outside the top 10?
So outside my top 10 are Dumoro, a rather new kid on the block. Although he's not an American native, he works out of California. and he positions himself as in a California designed watch brand. So, and I actually own one of his watches, but he did make my top 10. Second watch brand I want to give a shout out to is Weiss. Third is Brew. And last one that almost made my top 10 is Bull Watch Company. So those are my 4 honorable mentions, Rob.
Very good, very good. Yeah, Bull's an interesting one with its famous railroad history as well as its use of tritium. Also famous for its social media posts, and the less said about those, probably the better. Regardless of your political persuasion, their strategy is a little bit scattershot, and the fact that they post potentially controversial statements and then remove them almost immediately, but not so quickly that they haven't been screenshotted and reshared 1,000 times, is something they need to take a look at. So whoever's got their finger on the trigger, I mean that possibly literally, of this side of the business, please take a pause and don't post without thinking thrice. Okay, moving on. Number 10 for me, a brand that I can describe in one word. The brand is So Labs, and the word is fun. If you've not encountered So Labs, they do what I feel a lot of small brands should do, and stick to tried and tested formulas when it comes to case construction, at least, although the design is entirely proprietary, but do something creative with the way the time is expressed. Now, all you need to do to find out what these watches look like is go on so-labs.co, and you will see what I'm talking about. Beautiful, deft use of color, pastel shades, great shapes, a lot of fun. Great watch to get younger people into watchmaking for me, but one for the seasoned hack to look at their wrists and smile once more. Alon, who's your number 10?
Before I give you my number 10, actually a good pick, and I already love their font. I get Miami Art Deco vibes off of it and the pastel colors they use, so great pick. I went the polar opposite of what you've done, but maybe same zeitgeist in the sense that they made cutting edge design, or it's a design watch. I cheated kinda, but as you said, rightfully so, there are not many truly American made watches. So watches that are allowed to bear the label made in the USA. So I went for the Movado Museum Classic.
I mean, that classic is the word. It's one of my favorite watches. It was one of the first watches I aspired to own when I first got into watchmaking professionally. Clean lines, easy to read, easy to dress up, even dress down. You know, that comes in multiple sizes these days, but I just love the original. And I think that the vintage ones, they are great value for money. So top pick, hard to say anything against Movado. I'm actually a bit embarrassed I didn't put it on my own list because I love it so much, but maybe that's good for the diversity of this conversation. Number 9 for me, a brand that has been through a couple of evolutions but remains now known as Devon Timepieces. I think when I first reviewed these watches back in 2015, they were known as Devon Works. That's just something I'm pulling from the archive of my brain. They could realistically have featured much higher. They have an innovative time-telling mechanism using a belt system, which is unlike pretty much anything else I've ever seen. And as people who know of my love for the Swiss brand HYT will already appreciate, I love it as a watchmaker when the time is expressed in a completely novel way. And this is novel, to say the least. It won't be for everyone. It's big, it's bold, it's brash. It's a US incarnate. Website's rubbish, though. That's a real shame. They need to sort that out because, you know, for timepieces of this value and this complexity, they need something a little fresher. Last week, of course, we had Leo from Niton on the show, and he has built one of the greatest websites I've ever seen in my life. So that's an example. If Devon looks over there to what he's done with Niton, they could really, I think, make some progress from public perception. What's your number 9, Alon?
I went to another classic, but from design, museum grade, I went to hardcore utility military watch, and I have a few on my list. The 9th position I gave to one that I still need to acquire, vintage or new, is the Benrus Type 1 mil spec.
That's a good one. That didn't feature on my list either. I'm really happy so far. This is it's very informative for the listeners. How do people check out the Benrus if they want to see it themselves? What's the website address?
Fun fact is that there is actually a great Swiss watch entrepreneur behind the revival of Benrus. So it's American heritage with Swiss precision, something we've seen obviously with Hamilton. I'm quite sure both of us put them somewhere in the next runner-ups. It's very simple, benrus.com. Dear Rob, you can order them online. You can get them in Europe, so it's not American only. I think they ship worldwide. They have the full range of the Epic watches. So you have the field watches there. You obviously have the off-centered cases that I'm referring to. So the Type 1 is the infamous asymmetric case. So with the crown guards, that makes it really Benrus. And I chose the one without a logo on the dial. So that really does it for me. It's a matter of time that I'll add it to my collection.
Very good to hear. So, funnily enough, Hamilton won't feature on my list, spoiler alert, and that's because I don't regard it as American anymore. And I tried to stick with brands that are actually being made in America today. But it's good that we took a slightly different tack because, of course, the history of American watchmaking is extremely important for the industry in general, especially nowadays. Let's face it, America is the biggest market for watches, certainly for Swiss and German watches at the moment, worldwide, and we need to pay homage to that. Anyone that wants to check out the Devon timepieces I was talking about before, I'll give you the web address. It is still devonworks.com, so devonworks.com. Next up for me on the 8th position. This one really could have been number 1 because of its size and its fame. For me, I've put it in this slot because it deserves to not be sneaking in back at the end of this list because of how important it is to the American scene. But I'm really putting it in this slot for one model and one model only, and this is Timex. The only Timex I would buy is the Ironman, and I would love to buy them all. I love them. I think they are amazing. Honestly, although I own loads of G-Shocks and 0 Ironmans, I think I prefer the Ironman to the G-Shock in terms of an 80s quartz classic multifunction. Beautiful design. In the last couple of years, they've started releasing metal versions of it, some in steel, some in DLC plated steel, some in PVD coated gold, and they look incredible. I'm a bit allergic to PVD, to be honest, so I would probably buy the steel one for myself, the uncoated one, but the gold one with the black strap and the black accents looks incredible, and the recent Hodinkee edition with the sort of frosted, semi-translucent bezel is just to die for. So for me, Timex takes the 8th spot on the back of the Ironman, which I could not recommend more as a great, affordable, fun watch, and really a great watch to collect because they've done so many colorways over the years. You could have a whole collection of those and be well received at any watch party you might attend. Alon, who's in number 8 for you?
Great pick, dear Rob. And Timex will feature in my top 10. But I went the polar opposite again on what you've done, but great pick. I went for the second one in the, let's call it the holy trinity of mil-spec, American mil-spec. The G forms. I went from sea to air, and I went with a watch that I actually own. It's a revived Waltham A17 pilot's watch. And it is actually an American entrepreneur who bought the name, and he revived the brand together with our friend Guido Benedini of Watch Angels. And that's where I picked up the first drop of the new Waltham A17.
That's incredible. I love the history of Waltham. I worked on many Waltham pocket watches when I was training, and I just think the style and the finishing of those old calibers was superb. I'm really happy to see the name persisting into the 21st century. For me, I have picked number 7, a brand that I visited in person while driving from Seattle to San Diego on behalf of Fortis, scoping out retailers on the West Coast, trying to find good partners for them over there. I stopped off in Oregon at a brand just on the outskirts of Beaverton called Vero. Now, as you know, Alon, aside from watches, I collect baseball caps. And I suppose I regard myself as more of a baseball cap collector than I do a watch collector. I don't really collect watches as much as I do buy them, wear them, and analyze them. The caps, something else. You know, I have caps that I never wear, caps that sit on my wall. Some of you, if you've ever seen me talking on Instagram or on other podcasts, might have seen my back wall of baseball caps, which is over 70 strong. The one I wear the most, though, is one I was given on my visit to Vero in Beaverton, Oregon. And that is a Vero Athletic Club trucker. Just a Yupong trucker, a standard Yupong trucker. If you're into cap decoration or baseball caps, then you'll know what Yupong is. It's a famous brand that makes oftentimes blanks for people to customize, but they're really good, great fit, really classic, lovely crown height, good solid mesh snapback, and I wear that cap almost every single day. And the watch that I wear to go along with it is the one that is in partnership with the Forest Ranger Service of the US, and it's the Air Tanker. And it's a really cool quartz-powered watch with a function that is unusual. Like, you hold down one button and the seconds hand will show you the power reserve of the watch, which I think is absolutely top drawer. What do you think of Vero, Alan?
Very cool, very American, outdoor vibe. Actually, great pick. And my favorite is the Smoky 44 with the bear.
Yeah, that's the one that gets the most pop, to be fair. That bear, I mean, it's something about bears and watches. And we all know about my beef with the Oris bear. And yeah, to be fair, it's getting even more competitive between me and Ori, as I call him now, because it turns out that my girlfriend has been having it away with him behind my back. And obviously I'm devastated. She's got a type, short, furry men, as we know. Like, this is why I hate him so much. Rolf still doesn't get the joke. Rolf still thinks that I've got something against Oris because I don't like the bear, but it's not the case. I love Oris. Just me and the bear, just personally, we don't vibe. So, obviously, when I see this Vero Smoky Bear, that's kind of sexy name, isn't it? Smoky Bear series. There's a couple of them, different dark colors. They normally sell out in a heartbeat. I'm a bit put off because I'm like, oh no, another competitor. But I've got to say, I love his hat. I love the outdoorsman vibe, and it's a really cool watch. And if you want a bear on your watch, then I'd say go for either Vero or Ralph Lauren.
But talking of Vero, I need to give a very close second vote to the Workhorse. That is something special. You get G-Shock, Mud Master vibes, but very modern with analog hands. Actually, I would dare to call it the defender of watches for only less than $400. So compliments, Vero. Love it.
So this one here, this Workhorse is kind of like the evolution of the Forest Service Edition Air Tanker that I wear. It's the same style case with the opposed crowns and the cool multifunction quartz. I think that's their strongest offering, personally, because I think that looks like nothing else. That's exciting to me. It has, again, you know what? It's similar. It's similar to the Solabs in terms of its versatility. It could be on the wrist of someone that normally wears a Patek throughout the week and wants something a bit fun and a bit colourful and wants to support an up-and-coming brand. I tell you what's really cool about Vero as well. It's not just watches. They have like a universe around the brand. They're really into sports. They're really into outdoors. Chris, the guy behind it, is like genuine. He is the brand. Like, everything you can see comes from him. I've got some socks from Vero. I've got pin badges on my bag. Like, I feel like I'm part of the family. And I think that's a great angle to bring kids into this field as well. So you could give this watch to, say, imagine if you're 12 or 13 years old and you don't want to wear like a standard Casio like all your mates, or you don't want to wear some Seiko or Festina that your mum's bought for you off Amazon. You've got a Vero. You'd be the coolest kid in class. So I think that the Workhorse Canyon, the Workhorse Backcountry, and then the Vero X Scout Motors Terracotta Workhorse and the Vero X Scout Motors Moonstone Blue Workhorse are watches that, if you're looking to buy something for a younger emerging watch fan, you should definitely check out, because these things, they are affordable and they are worth every penny. They pay it back in bucket loads of fun. Your number 7, Alan.
You called it not American, but I still call it an American spirit. Bulova. How can I not? The Citizen Group owns it today, so it's a nice mashup of Japanese, American, still headquartered with a lot of Swiss precision. Today, I think it's called the Accutron Spaceview 2020. I think they did a great job in reviving the Bulovas and then spin it off as a sub-brand with Accutron. So shout out to them.
Yeah, fair play. Your question is valid. How could I not include it? I didn't include it for the same reason that I didn't include Hamilton, but I'm glad that you did, because Bulova is a name that we all adore. I was in Warsaw a couple of weeks ago at a watch fair there with Straum, and I got to meet a couple of guys while I was manning the Nodus stand for a second, actually, because Wes popped off to take care of some extraneous business, and they were wearing Bulova Accutrons, almost box fresh, beautiful condition, running as well, humming away as they do with their tuning fork. For watchmakers, the history of Bulova is it's a bittersweet history, to be honest, because the tuning fork existed as this, I would almost say, bridge technology, except it was a bridge to nowhere. It was a dead end technology, I suppose. The tuning fork that just predated quartz ever so slightly was never destined for a long life because it's far less reliable or robust than a quartz movement. Those pull levers on a tuning fork caliber are extremely fine and susceptible to damage. Very hard to fix when they do go. But it's such a true artifact of innovation in that era, you know, when we were having the transition from mechanical to electric. And I think it's talked about a lot within the community. It is known and loved within the community, but it deserves a bit more pop externally. So great shout, lovely choice, a beautiful one. I'll move on to number 6. I'd be surprised if this one doesn't feature on the list, so I won't say much about it. We've had Carol on the show before, Barrel Hand, the 3D printing maestros inspired by space.
Well done. I'll get back to that later. For my 6th position, I did go to Shinola. I followed these guys from day one. When they set out with their idea, ramping up, they actually worked hands-on with my friends, the Schori brothers from Switzerland, who helped them not only with Strauss, but basically set up workshops in Detroit. Ronda helped them a lot with the quartz calibers, and I later a bit of mechanical. So I chose the mechanic watch, because how can I not, in the Motown of America, where that country had the most mechanics back in the day. So this is a shout out to Motown.
Great shout out to Motown. We love Motown. Diana Ross, legend. You know, now I'm thinking about it, I feel bad about putting Vero down in 7th. I wasn't expecting myself to gush so effusively about the brand. I was just thinking, I didn't mention it very clearly, but it has a Seiko PX28A kinetic movement inside it. That's why the power reserve is so interesting, because it winds itself, and I'm such a fan of kinetic movements. Looking ahead of that, though, with Barrel Hand in 6 and E. Stallman in 5th and the 4 that are yet to come, it's hard to push it up any further because these top 7 are really, really great brands. So Stallman is my 5th pick. This is run by my friend Eugene Stallman, who is head of Baltimore Watch Company as well, has a wonderful facility just on the outskirts of Baltimore in Maryland. So if anyone is in the region, if you're flying to BWI or if you're flying to Dulles or Reagan or whatever, you should go up to his area and you should pay him a visit. They've got space to entertain 100 watch guests. They've got a wonderful area, pool table, leather seats, bar area, beautifully decorated workshop and storage and logistics facility up there. Stallman focuses on dials more than anything. The cases are very lovely classic cases, but he has some very interesting dial materials and at really reasonable prices as well. So if you're into these more artisanal dials, then check out Stallman's offering. Do you know the brand, Alan?
If I remember correctly, what appealed me, you're saying nice cases, but I think he makes sterling silver cases.
He does.
And that really resonates with me because there aren't many that do that, you know, and we might have mentioned here and there that we're trying to nudge some brands to make a TRTS collab in sterling silver with us. So I've heard of them. Weren't so much on my radar. They got on my radar because of sterling silver. My family lives in Maryland, so that's why I remembered it. And if you want to find them online, it's ESTOHLMAN.com. Have a look.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, the case, just to pay it a little bit more lip service, I suppose we describe these as It's almost Art Deco Comme des Vaches is how I would describe them. There's a sort of artfulness and a structure to them that's very satisfying. And, you know, these are really reasonably priced watches, like I say, around €2,000. A lot of fun. And if you meet Eugene, and this is one of those things about watchmaking, right? Like a lot of the time, we are certainly turned off buying watches by bad owners, but we can sometimes be turned on to buying a watch that maybe we don't think is immediately for us, but we want to give it a fair crack because we like the guys behind the brand. And he's the kind of character that you can just vibe with immediately. Like, he will take the living piss out of you 5 minutes after meeting you. He's got no airs and graces, completely himself, hilarious dude, heart of gold, which is what matters, like underneath it all. But just a lot of fun to hang out with him and listen to his experience in the industry, because he's got a lot of it. So check out those watches, guys, if you've not seen them before. And if you want to reach out to Eugene, then he'll be very gracious in response, I'm sure. What was your number 5? Into the top 5 now.
Top 5, halfway. I'm already enjoying it. I loved you raising the idea, the homework we did, just racking our brain and Googling a bit. Although I got my first 7 off the bat, and then I got stuck a bit. So my 5th one, I didn't go for a classic Timex one, which would be the easiest route. And they made a lot of cool collabs with, for example, J. Crew and I don't know what other typical American retailers. One that haven't pulled the trigger on yet, and I love what the designer Giorgio Galli is doing with Timex, is the S2 Automatic. And recently they brought out a chronograph, if I'm not mistaken. But that is the epitome of contemporary American design. Although he might not be American, he obviously is based a long time in America. And I love what Timex is doing, that they're pushing the envelope. It's a high-end piece for Timex, but I think worth every penny of what they're asking for that watch.
It is crazy how little crossover we've had so far. This is absolutely unbelievable. I guess we might find ourselves choosing the same brands as we get down to the sharp end. Let's see if my number 4 features on your list. That's Nodus. Obviously, Wes behind the brands, along with the team, is just an incredible guy to work with. But the watches themselves are just a stupidly good value proposition. They are making a lot of them because there's a lot of demand for them. They're traveling relentlessly. They're at almost every fair you can shake a stick at, and go along, see them, get them on your wrist. Because if you're looking for a good daily beater, a good gadder, then, you know, these watches really, really, really do pass the sniff test. So Nodus in number 4 for me. Alon?
Great pick. You know what I get with Nodus is the early Sin vibes and the Sin Belarus vibes. So good 2 watches, well designed, well crafted, at a good price. And the Sector Deep Damascus really does it for me. Great pick.
What's your number 4?
My number 4 is, and there were discussions if RGM had the right to call his watches made in the USA. I think that in the last few years he ramped up, and I chose the Pennsylvania Tourbillon because I think that is the one that brought him into that level of being made in USA. So I went from utterly modern and contemporary to very classic with the RGM. What is yours, Rob?
My number 3 is RGM. Yeah, RGM made it into my top 3 on the podium. I've been to the workshop in Pennsylvania. I've met Roland. I've handled the watches. And, you know, funnily enough, every year I go to the Time Out watch event at Little Treasury Jewelers in Gambrels, Maryland. And there's a guy that comes there every year, an older gentleman. I'm not sure what decade he's in. I'd say 70s or 80s possibly, but very fit, very dapper, very genteel, and he wears an RGM with each, and you'll have seen it if you've been on the RGM website, each hour marker is a baseball player hand-painted on the dial. And every year I comment on the watch, and every year he's surprised that I noticed it and remembered it. I think eventually, after talking to him for 5 or 10 minutes every year, he realizes we've had this conversation about RGM and our shared love for it before. But he's a great chap and just one of those guys, if you work a lot in the US and you visit a lot of events, especially if you go to the same events year in, year out, as I often do, then you will find this dedicated cohort of travellers that turn up and make the effort to go and see the novelties and fraternise with fellow aficionados. And it's like being part of a family away from home. So I love that. I love what Roland's been able to achieve. And they really do the work. They really do put the hours in slaving away over lathes and the bench in the US. So I think that for me, very much qualifies as a US made. And can't say enough about him.
Little shout out, if you are in love with the Vacheron American 1921, you should maybe consider RGM's Model 222 RR. So railroad, slanted. If you want that vibe, very cool watch. So Rob, my third one may be predictable and is one that I have, and I urge every parent or young listeners that are listening to our show, if you want an entry-level mechanical watch, really, really consider the Hamilton Keiki Field. That made my number 3, dear Rob.
Hard to beat, one of the best value watches from one of the most established makers in the world. Obviously a deep American heritage. Off the top of my head, it was founded in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Hamilton. And I think my first nice-ish watch was a Hamilton Ardmore that I still own. I was working at the Swatch Group at the time in the Swatch store on Market Street in Manchester. And every year there's a sale, a staff sale, where you get up to 70% off certain models that are selected in the catalogue, and it's the most exciting part of the year. I mean, it's like being a kid again, when you go down to Argos and get the Argos catalogue and pore over it and see what you're going to ask for Christmas. I was mining through this catalogue looking for something decent, and I found the Hamilton Ardmore, which at the time retailed for £250, and I was able to buy 2 of them, one silver dial for me and one black dial for my brother, for £75 a piece. I've got it on a green leather Omega croc strap now, and I still wear it. I believe it's Richard Gere's watch of choice, or it was at least at one point during his career. And although it's often pitched as a ladies' watch, it works just fine on the wrist of a man, especially with a suit. I'll never say goodbye to that watch because, for £75, what's the point? I'll keep it and I'll wear it and I'll enjoy it for the rest of my days and hopefully hand it on to a child of my own one day. Love Hamilton, love the brand, love the history, and love that watch in particular. Moving on to my silver medal position, a very new kid on the block. He's been on the show, Aura Aurea by Zach Weiss of Worn and Wound. How could we not feature Zach's triumphant debut in the watchmaking game himself? Beautiful watches, very well received, extremely well made, exquisitely finished hands. Can't say enough about it. We said a lot on the episode. If you've not listened to that, go back and check it out, because he's a very passionate guy with huge roots in the watch industry and someone that knows what they're doing quite clearly from this initial offering. Alon, your silver medal, please.
Before I do my silver medal, kudos to you. That's a great curveball. We had the honor to be the first media outlet to have an audio report about what he does. I might think he's the youngest American watch brand out there. So well done, Rob. My second one was actually in your list already, and it was very tough choice for me to choose between 1 and 2. It's a watch that I bought, and I bought it solely because he came on air. I kept on saying it, and we're creeping towards, I believe, our 4th anniversary of the Real Time Show. And I've been saying now for almost 3.5 years that this show isn't good for me or my wallet, because instead of saturating the need to buy watches, I'm buying more watches. I'm talking about the Barrel Hand Monolith. We had him on the show. I jumped on the bandwagon. I put a deposit down for the first batch of the Monolith. I received it early this year. I love it. They've now been running a campaign and pushing it hard. I call it the Moonwatch 2.0. Love everything they do about it. We hung out with Karel, I call him by his Dutch pronunciation, in Switzerland. We went together to see his childhood heroes, Felix Baumgartner and Martin Fry, and afterwards with MBNF, which was one for the history books. So that is my number 2. I'm very, very curious and actually very excited to see if we chose the same gold medalist in our 2026 July 4th top 10. Rob, should we do it together simultaneously?
I think there's almost no chance that we've not picked the same guy. So yeah, let's do a countdown from 3 and then we'll say the name at the same time. Just the last name will do. So make sure you're unmuted and ready for this. Our gold medalist for this very special July 4th celebration. Happy 250th birthday to the United States. Your champion this year is 3, 2, 1.
Shapiro!
That's right. Okay. No collaboration off air, we promise, but it became more and more obvious as we buzzed through that list that the winner would be Josh Shapiro. JN Shapiro watches, working out of California. Hand gear shade dials on traditional Rose engine machines. Josh is a luminary in that field, has become an advisor for many brands hoping to break into the same part of the industry, but he is streets ahead in many ways with the work he's doing, and he's working with some crazy difficult materials to machine by any standards, let alone with a Rose engine. So I think a very well-deserved top spot. Extremely interesting lists that did not go in the same direction at all. Some great choices and a strange lack of crossover, to be honest. I think there was only a couple. We both had Timex, we both had Barrel Hand, we both had RGM, but apart from that, I think everything was different, which is brilliant. So I'm guessing our audience know Josh pretty well. He's been on the show. He's even hosted an episode of the show live in Geneva once, so a rare accolade for him. A great watchmaker, even greater man, and someone that I think we can all get behind. If you want to buy a Shapiro in Europe, then talk to Alon, because he's a very seldom found registered dealer for the brand. Alon, talk to us a little bit about Shapiro. You know Josh even better than I do, and I think that it'd be nice to hear a little bit more about him behind the scenes.
So what's amazing, he's autodidactic. He was and still is a teacher, in the sense that, obviously, state of mind. He teaches now a team of, I believe, 14 people. He grew his company, JN Shapiro Watches. He set out an ambition to make the most beautiful, aesthetically most beautiful American-made watches. That meant at a certain point that he needed to make his own caliber, which he's done with the Resurgence. And we've mentioned it at the beginning of the episode that the most stringent label in the world for a national made label is the Made in the USA label. So while we were chatting, I just did a recent search on what is allowed and what isn't allowed to call something made in the USA. So in the US, the US Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, regulates those things. For watches specifically, an unqualified claim for made in US, say, means it needs to be finally assembled in the US. All significant processing must occur in the US, and all or virtually all components must be of US origin. And that's where you have a loophole, virtually. And that makes it vague. While we were talking about RGM, I looked at that caliber, the Pennsylvania caliber. He is very transparent. He wrote 90% is made in the USA for that specific watch, which is very humble of him to list that and not to flex that it's a US-made watch. In practice, this Google search yielded foreign parts must be negligible. So that's vague. It's not quantified. So the core value, function, or identity must be overwhelmingly American. We can state that the Resurgence is the only thing, I think, in that caliber is now American, might be the Hairspring. I think the jewels are American.
Really?
I need to double check that, because Josh is working very hard on bringing everything in-house. He's that crazy that he bought a $1 million plus machine to mill the tantalum cases and straps that he's making for the AHA, the Alternative Horological Alliance, that incorporates Ming, Fears, Fleming, and we have the newest edition, who's also American, Messina. So that's one that we actually forgot.
Yeah.
But there are more. So that's interesting. So and what I love about Josh, he has a collaborative spirit. I mean, it's underlined by the fact that he joined the AAH. He's a founding member. And the most recent hit was the collab with Ming, the Lightning Dial that is engine turned by Josh and his team in California, shipped to Kuala Lumpur, where Ming Chen of the Ming brand heats them with a flame. So every dial is different. So that exploded the internet a few weeks ago. And you heard it first on the Real Time Show. I guessed what brand the next dials will be made by Shapiro. I won't say more. So I shocked everyone because they thought I had inside information, but I didn't. It was just a deep, deep wish of my own that I would want to buy that watch. So stay tuned. You heard it first on the Real Time Show.
You know, just to touch on that Ming X JN Shapiro 37.06 Lightning, I saw this watch obviously popped up in my inbox, press release did, and I had a look at it. I was like, wow, this is an incredible collaboration. There's previous between Ming and Shapiro. Of course, they've worked together on the tantalum bracelet, and we maybe could have seen this coming, but what I didn't see coming was the price. I saw this watch, and I assumed that it would be easily 5 figures, closer to 20,000 is what I assumed. But the price of this, and for this price, you get a handmade dial from Josh, which has been heat treated delicately. Let's put it this way. I mean, to get this gradient using a blowtorch, so it's hand done, it's not a machine process, is incredible. Apparently, only 1 in 3 dials fail, which I think is an incredible yield from this process. I assumed that it would be more like 1 in 2 or even like 1 in 3 succeeds. You get this watch for 6,250 Swiss francs, excluding taxes. Now, they sell out frequently because they're only making, I think it's 25 pieces per month. Is that right, Alon? Or 10 pieces per month?
Only 10 indeed. I think they were a bit naive because they've communicated we'll make 10 a month, launched in June and run up to 2027. So do the math, 18 months times 10 is only 180 dials. Okay? Sold out in a jiffy.
Only.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I can believe it. I find this strategy like mind-boggling. I saw this watch and I thought, okay, that's an expensive watch to make. If they're going to charge that price, then surely they're going to do a really, really limited one-shot number, and it's more of a marketing exercise to grow both brands and their collaboration rather than it is a commercial exercise. 180 dials is an enormous output in my estimation. I think it's an incredible opportunity. The opportunity may well already have passed because I can imagine there was 18,000 people that would have bought this watch at that price. But it's a lot of watches. It's a great gift to the industry.
It is a great gift, and they're being humble in that sense about it. They've communicated the ambition is there to make more in 2028, but they want to manage expectations. So both Ming and all the 10 retailers around the world that Ming now today has, because Ming sells the watch and not Shapiro. Shapiro is the supplier of the dials. Ming Chen actually himself torches the dials, whom are made of titanium, which actually impressed me more because I'm like, oh, what Rose engine tool did he use for that? And the ambition is to make more passing the communicated 180 dials. And the 10 retailers and Ming themselves are taking a waiting list. So that's what's happening at that end. And that's what I love about the brand Ming. They manage expectations and they communicate openly without mumbo-jumbo marketing language.
Yeah, for me, the way to bring that dial back would be to pair it with a super duper movement from Ming and to jump that price right up to the top end. I think that would be palatable for people that have bought into the watch at this price. They wouldn't feel like they were getting the rug pulled from under their feet and that the limitation was false. I would say that rather than using the Sellita 4 Ming SW210.M1, which is a modified Sellita 210, they should go to the very, very top end, the movements that we see in their cave projects, and just bump the price up, do one last go around of this collaboration, and then stick it in the archive. And that's this episode in the archive for you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening to episode 370 of The Real Time Show and the celebration of a 250th birthday of the US of A. We'll be back soon with more top quality watch content and interviews with the industry's finest. Until then, stay safe and keep on ticking.